a psychotherapist and spiritual teacher. We are here to talk about transforming difficult emotions, which is a topic that every human truly needs because the nature of being human is that we do experience difficult emotions much of the time. So as you sit, wherever it is you are, really tune into what difficult emotion maybe you are experiencing in this moment or have experienced recently. So just breathing into the belly, tune into that. Maybe it was disappointment or anger or sadness, grief, frustration, shame. So I know we are completely wired to push away difficult emotions, but just take a moment to tune in. What difficult emotion have you been experiencing either in this moment or recently? And tune into that. And as you do, I want to share that difficult emotions have a very intentional purpose in our consciousness, in our body, our mind, in our life. Difficult emotions can be one of the greatest ways we learn more about ourselves and more about how we show up in the world as a human and show up in our relationships. So when we have the courage, when we can embody the courage to lean in to the difficult emotions that we experience, we begin to understand ourselves at a deeper level. We begin to understand the belief systems that we carry. Maybe we begin to understand dynamics in relationships that we've chosen to be in that may or may not be serving us. Difficult emotions arise for one primary purpose: to teach us. So as we move into this workshop, I really want us to embrace a different perspective on difficult emotions. They're not bad. We don't want to push them away. We don't want to repress them. And we've been doing that probably for far too long anyhow. We want to shift our lens, shift our perspective into receiving difficult emotions as some of our greatest teachers. Can we do that? I know for me, I've gone through a few really big, challenging moments in my life, whether it was losing my mom when I was in grad school or going through divorce. But those difficult emotions, as I look back on those life transformative experiences, moving through those difficult emotions became some of my most transformative experiences and really built a kind of resilience and a strength, a personal strength that perhaps I wouldn't have received if I didn't lean in to those difficult emotions. And again, as humans, we are here to experience the lessons of life. Much of the time, we don't experience lessons unless we also host those challenging emotions that are highly uncomfortable for us. So as you're tuning in to your own difficult emotions, maybe in this moment or recently in your life, maybe you can say to yourself, this is a teacher that has showed up to guide me, to teach me, to transform me. Most of the spiritual teachings throughout time and around the world talk about how we awaken through the experience of pain and suffering. And when you think about nature even, right? Think about how forests are burned down in order for new growth to happen. When you think about the cultivation of a pearl, in that beautiful shell, there's a little irritation that comes in, and that irritation, that distress, creates a pearl, something that is so magnificent, so beautiful. When you think about the blossoming and the freeing of a butterfly from a cocoon, there's a sense of struggle. There's kind of this moment where there's the breaking of the cocoon and there's a struggle there. So coming back to us as humans, when we embrace difficult emotions as lessons for our own transformation, We are aligning ourselves with the natural rhythms of nature. And that's no small thing. That can be a life-altering choice. And first and foremost, it's a shift in our perception, because we are wired. We have been taught that challenging or difficult emotions are bad. How many times have we heard when we were younger, perhaps, oh, don't cry, or don't be angry? We are taught by society, we are taught by our seemingly, well-intentioned caregivers, these messages. But I really, truly want to offer you a different way of seeing your challenging emotions. And if you can continue to adopt this lens, this perspective, you will allow yourself to be an alchemist of difficult emotion into something that is magnificent. Your greatest growth, your awakening, your expansion. So, I want to offer a mindset tool to really help you move through those difficult emotions in a way that allows you to see the depth of your power, the depth of your capacity to be that very alchemist. And this is a technique called the 3 A's. The 3 A's. The first is to acknowledge that difficult emotion, the challenging emotion that's coming up. Maybe you have a fight with your friend or your partner. What's coming up within you? That moment of awareness, what are you acknowledging that's coming up within you? Maybe it's anger, maybe it's rage, maybe it's shame. So feel that, notice that. The first A is to acknowledge. And you want to acknowledge it with your full attention. Again, not pushing it away, not demonizing that challenging emotion as bad, but receiving it as this teacher, acknowledging it as this teacher. First A, acknowledge. The second A is to accept. Accept that this challenging emotion, this uncomfortable emotion, is a part of your humanness. It is a part of your humanness. It can allow you to really blossom and move past some of your barriers. So what we want to accept that this challenging emotion is here to teach us. Acknowledge the emotion, accept that this emotion is a part of your humanness. And the third is really the biggest action step, and that's to take alternative action. We want to take alternative action. What does that mean? So instead of dwelling on the emotion, just say it's anger. Instead of dwelling in that anger and really spinning with stories as to how you can get this person back or what you need to say to them, you want to take an alternative action. Maybe it is 5 minutes of mindful belly breathing. Maybe it's taking a walk outside and being mindful as you are feeling your feet present on Mother Earth. Maybe it's writing down your inner experience. A lot of times when we journal, when we release those emotions onto paper, it can help us purge, it can help us release, helps us to process. Maybe we spend a few minutes really with our child or with our 4-legged child, our pet. Those are ways we can automatically boost the mood. So that alternative action is really up to you, and it's up to the intuitive guidance that you receive from yourself, but also you want to pull on a toolbox that you've perhaps cultivated over time. So if you think about certain acts or practices that help to bring you more connectedness, more peace, you want to make one of those practices your alternative action. So for me, it is almost always grounding. Grounding is a way we connect with earth energy. Our feet firmly planted into the earth allows us to receive that powerful and balancing electromagnetic energy of Mother Earth. It decreases stress, anxiety, depression. It increases homeostasis in the body. So whenever I'm feeling stirred up, angry, anxious, off kilter, I ground. And that is my go-to alternative action. So the 3 A's, if you can get yourself into a rhythm where you are really flowing with the 3 A's throughout the day, acknowledge, accept, alternative action, then you can truly use those difficult emotions as some of your greatest teachers. And I can't stress that enough. The courage to lean in to those uncomfortable emotions. That is the transformative serum. That is the essence of what it means to be a resilient human. So emotional resilience is a key factor for overall life satisfaction. So a lot of the studies talk about the fact that more resilience in our emotional system gives us a greater chance for high life satisfaction. So contrary to perhaps the belief that stress is always bad for you, we want to embrace stress in the system, in the emotional system, in the nervous system, as that grit that makes the pearl. The pearl being a human living a life of meaning, living a life that is aligned, that is present, that is beyond the constrictions of uncomfortable emotions. So we use that stress of leaning in, because being with anger, being with frustration, being with shame, sadness, those are all very, very challenging moments, right? So I don't want to minimize the fact that, being human and feeling these emotions, I don't want to minimize it. I'm not trying to say it's not hard. It is. And I'll even venture to say that being present with challenging emotions becomes an aspirational practice. So a lot of the mindfulness teachers will talk about, these practices as being aspirational. We're not going to be perfect at it 100% of the time, but we aspire to continue to lean in to the challenging, difficult emotions that arise for us. And of course, there are going to be times that maybe we choose to have that, extra glass of wine or that extra piece of pizza or whatever it is. That's just our humanness. And that's why we can't practice mindfulness without a deep sense of self-compassion. So we need to have compassion for our imperfections. But if we aspire to continue to practice the 3 A's, for example, that will change your life in ways that will unfold throughout every step, every chapter of your life. So I think about my own story, my own journey, and my first big personal awakening of spiritual growth and really alignment of my inner life with my outer life was when my mom suddenly passed when I was in grad school. My first year of grad school, she died of a sudden stroke. And I think about that as such a formative time. Now, at the time, I was definitely fused with my sadness. I was fused with my grief. But when I began to really embrace mindfulness, meditation, presence-based practices as a part of my healing, in addition to therapy, I began to see the transformative aspects of these practices. That I, as a human, so my soul or my core self, was so much more than my grief experience, for example. So I could be with the grief, but then expand past it. It's almost like, if you put a drop of food coloring in a very small dish of water, it's going to color that entire small dish of water. But if you put a drop of food coloring in the ocean, it gets diluted so much so you don't even see the color, right? So if that drop is your difficult emotion, your grief, your sadness, your anger, your shame, you want to create an expansive basin, an expansive holding place for that challenging emotion. So when I began to meditate and practice yoga and go to therapy and just be more self-reflective when I lost my mom, I began to expand that sacred container in which I was holding my grief in. So I wasn't hyper-focused on it as the only part of my human experience. It became one of many aspects of my human experience. And that was the initial, most powerful experience of my life. The depth of grief, the depth of suffering, of sadness. And so through that embodied experience, I began to guide clients and students through the journey of embracing difficult emotions as the great teachers that they are. And if you think about your own life, so I want to do a little contemplation for a second. Think about the moments in your own life where you feel like you grew and expanded, more than any other moment or any other time. Think about what happened. Think about what you were feeling. What were your transformative life moments? What did they entail? Probably, to some extent, they included difficult emotions, whatever those were for you. And so we can use that awareness as evidence that these emotions are something to be worked with. Okay. And there's a balance between working with a challenging, uncomfortable emotion and ruminating in it. So I'm a big advocate of what I call the middle path, okay? So this is a spiritual teaching, the middle path approach. It's not about ruminating in the challenging emotion for hours and hours and days and years. It is about working with it. So again, we want to be the transformers, the alchemists of difficult emotions. And just be careful, because there's a couple aspects of the human psyche that can get in the way when we're working with difficult emotions intentionally. There's two aspects that I want to not necessarily warn you of, but bring into your awareness so you can notice when they pop up, are the victim and the judge. So the victim is that inner wounded child part of you that feels victimized, that feels like you didn't get what you needed, your needs weren't met, perhaps you were neglected or abused, and it's that victim of, the inner wounded child lashing out through the story of victimization, okay? So there's the victim part of us, and most of us have that piece that rears its head at times, some more strong than others depending on our childhood experiences. The other aspect is the judge. So I also call the judge the inner critic. So for me, yes, I experienced the victim, but the judge is out of control at times. The inner critic, she, likes to assess constantly. You're feeling sad again? Get yourself together. So your inner critic may have its specific tone. Your inner critic is the voice that's constantly assessing how you did, assessing, who you are, judging other people, judging situations. And it can be very insidious, that inner judge. So I just want to bring those two aspects of the psyche into your awareness so you can, pinpoint it when they arise. And these two aspects can get in the way and block our ability to effectively work with those difficult emotions. And the victim and the judge, they can keep us attached and fused with the identity of those difficult emotions. For example, I have a dear friend who lost her child, and it was, a tragic situation. Her child was about 12 years old, and she's been in this place of grief for a handful of years. And she's really having a hard time kind of moving through it, right? And I really believe, and in conversations with her, it's that inner victim that keeps her so low and so fused in that space, and that's just where she is. It's not good or bad, but we can begin to see how these inner aspects of ourselves really keep us stuck to difficult emotions, or in a place where we're repressing them and pushing them away. So I want to offer a meditation practice that can help you really transform difficult emotions that come up for you. And this is a practice that you can use in your day-to-day life. You can use it consistently to help move into and through those challenging emotions that come up. So if you think about the element of water and how water transforms, we can freeze water, water can evaporate. This is where we use the element of water to become a healing element within us. So we possess all of the 4 elements in this embodied system, okay? We have fire, so we receive energy from the sun. We have water, so our body is 70 to 80% water. So that's a big aspect of us. That's why, when the full moon comes, we can feel different energies, and we can feel things moving through us, emotions moving through us. Okay, we are earth. We're made of the same elements as Mother Earth. So she is what we call the Great Mother. We come from her. And then there is air. So the air around us, the atmosphere is a part of us. We breathe air. So all of these elements, these 4 elements, are part of our physical existence, our energetic existence. And we can use elementals to help us work with difficult emotions. And we're going to use the transformation of water. So I'm going to guide you into this practice of really dissolving difficult emotion. So this is the dissolving meditation. And all you need to do is listen to my voice and allow really my voice to become your voice as you're guided into meditation. If your mind wanders, no judgment, simply bring your awareness back into the sound of my voice and we'll move through it. So wherever you are, I just want you to find yourself in a comfortable seated position. And just begin to feel your body in whatever space you're in. Feeling yourself relax and release. If you're seated, so you can do this seated or lying down. If you're seated, you want your spine to be upright, crown of the head towards the sky, chin level with the earth. And if you feel like you need more energy, you can allow the palms to face up. If you need to feel more grounded, if you're feeling a little off or frenetic, stressed, palms down on the knees or thighs. We'll begin and end with 3 chimes of the bell, okay? Just embracing a beginner's mind in this moment, if this is a new practice for you, which it probably is, the dissolving meditation. Begin to bring your attention into the breath, if it's not there already. We'll begin with mindfulness of breathing. Inhaling through the nostrils, sensing the moment the air touches the tips of the nostrils, beginning to roll into the lungs, expanding the lungs in all directions. And then perhaps you feel the pause at the top of the breath when your lungs are full, and then you exhale through the nostrils again, releasing and relaxing into the moment. So it becomes this ebb and flow, this receiving and releasing. Receiving what you need through the inhale, peace, presence, and releasing through the exhale, releasing stress and tension. Inhale through the nostrils, receiving peace and presence. Exhale through the nostrils, letting go of stress and tension. And stay with this ebb and flow of receiving and releasing for a few more deep, slow, mindful breaths. You may even notice any areas of the body where you're gripping, where you're holding tension and stress. And you invite that area to soften as you exhale the tension and stress from that space in the body. You begin to shift your attention from thought into embodied presence. We do that by directing and sustaining our attention on the body rather than on the stream, the incessant stream of thought. So let's use now the tailbone as our object of awareness. Simply focus on the tailbone, the first energy center of the body. And when you breathe into that area, you're literally grounding your body, your mind, rooting yourself in this moment. And when the mind pops back into the illusion of thought, a thought comes in or a stream of thoughts, just notice and then bring your attention back into the tailbone. You may have to come back into the present moment hundreds of times during a given meditation. No judgment. The mind is wired to create thought. You focus your attention on the base of the spine. You may notice some tingling, some pulsating in the base of the spine as you breathe into that area. Just stay with that. And now I want you to bring into the forefront of your mind a person or a situation that triggers an uncomfortable or highly difficult emotion for you. This could be a fight that you recently had, a conflict, Maybe it's a conflictual situation at work or with a friend, family member. But bring to mind a situation or memory or a person that triggers difficult emotions for you. And if you notice any resistance, that's completely normal. Just move past the resistance, move into it and out of it, still choosing to bring up this person, memory, or situation. And take a few moments to do that. And fully allow the difficult emotions to arise, whether that's anger, resentment, frustration, sadness, grief, rage, shame, embarrassment, jealousy. Whatever that difficult emotion or those emotions are, allow them to arise. Notice where they live in your body. Perhaps they live in the heart. Or the belly, the diaphragm. They may live in the shoulders. And tension in your jaw. Just notice where these challenging emotions live within you now. Bring your attention into that area of the body now. And imagine this little irritation. Maybe it looks like a little black or foggy ball of energy. Maybe it's murky green, stagnant energy. But going into the area of the body where you're holding it, notice what it looks like. And breathe into it without judgment. Let go of any judgment of these challenging experiences. Begin to see how this difficult energy for you, this difficult emotion, begins to morph into a small globe or a small block of ice. Maybe even a golden block of ice made of gold, if that's accessible. So feel how that difficult emotion morphs and transforms into that globe or block of ice. And as you breathe with each inhale now, allow the breath to dissolve that block of ice into water. Beginning to trickle and melt that solid block or globe. Drop by drop, melting. Eventually turning the entire block or globe of ice into water. And now with each breath, we begin to dissolve the water, to evaporate the water into gas, into water vapor. You begin to see drop by drop. The water evaporates. Stay with the visualization. Notice where the mind is, bringing all of your focus back into this area. We're dissolving this challenging, painful emotion from water to gas. Stay with the breath. With each breath, another drop evaporates. Until every drop of this difficult emotion evaporates. And now we must release it from the body. So as you inhale to the crown of the head, allow all of that water vapor to come to the crown. And as you exhale through the mouth, release the negative emotion. 3 more times. Inhale to the crown. Inhaling all of the remnants of that negative emotion. Exhaling through the mouth. Letting go of the vapor. Letting go. Inhale 2 more times. To the crown of the head. Even tensing the face, tensing the shoulders. And exhale that difficult emotion out of the mouth. Last one here. Breath retention. Pausing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release from the mouth now. Feeling yourself return to organic, natural breath. Feeling relaxation in that area of the body. Feeling a freeing, a liberation of this physical existence with that challenging emotion. We have the ability to dissolve the emotions that stand in the way of our greatest joy and contentment, peace and abundance. We must pay mindful, compassionate attention to these emotions that arise to teach us some of our greatest lessons. Return to natural breath now, no effort needed. Feeling the rise and fall of the chest and the belly as you breathe. Relax the body, relax the breath. May we continue to invite all emotions into the door of our consciousness with compassion, with acceptance, with love, for they are here to teach us. As you breathe into your own heart space, perhaps you feel a sense of gratitude for your courage to go inward and to work with these difficult emotions. It takes a warrior's heart to do so, and you've chosen to. Taking a few more deep, slow breaths. And in the words of Rumi, you are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a single drop. Vast, deep, and powerful. On the next inhale, begin to bring some mindful movements into the fingers and toes. Bringing yourself back into the space you're in. very slowly. We want to treat all of our transitions like their own meditations. So that was the dissolving meditation for difficult emotions. You can continue to work with this practice as you become your alchemist, the alchemist of challenging emotions that arise in service of your greatest awakening, your greatest personal and spiritual growth. Again, as humans, none of us are exempt from pain. We are here to move toward the pain in order to learn, to evolve, to expand. So thank you so much for joining me for this workshop on transforming difficult emotions. Namaste, Aho, Sat Nam.